And welcome to another Round the Rotary podcast with me, your host, JP Warren. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I know you have your selection of fine podcasts out there. And I want to thank you all for tuning in on this new Around the Rotary, which we're actually doing remotely, not due to COVID, just due to distance. We got Colten Bingham, a drill engineer with Devin on the line, but he's calling in from Oklahoma City. But before we begin, I have to give the intro. The Around the Rotary podcast is brought to you by Capital Petroleum Consultants. CPC specializes in project engineering and well site supervision in all disciplines of the oil and gas industry. Contact us through www.capitalpetroleumconsultants.com to see what CPC can do for you today. And that's it, Colten. Now it's just us, man. All the formalities are out of the way. Is this your first podcast you've done?
This is my first podcast ever. So
really?
Expect, but yeah, and we have to do it distance. So it's a little different than what I was expecting, but I'm excited.
And the best part about this podcast is that you've never even heard one episode Around the Rotary. So there's no set goals, there's no set expectations. Let's just do it.
Yeah, let's do it. And I will say you did give me a heads up, but I just failed to follow up on it. So yeah, I'm coming in cold to this. So we'll see where it goes. Well,
time out. I mean, you can't do that. You can't knock the show. You can't knock yourself. I mean, you're also busy with pursuing an MBA, right?
Yeah, working on MBA. Got one more class after this final I got to take this weekend, and we'll see where that takes me.
So what was the motivation on pursuing an MBA?
I was personal interest. So I have a mechanical engineering degree from Texas A&M, and didn't really know what I wanted to do with it, to be perfectly honest, and fell into the oil and gas industry. We'll get into that here in a bit. But anyways, just as I kind of pursued the oil and gas part of it and the engineering part of it, the business side is a huge component, and I just didn't know a lot about it, and had an opportunity where my company was helping me pay for a little bit of it. So it was like, well, why not? I got the time. Let's do it. And I'm going to be honest, like it has been pretty rewarding. It's better than I thought it was going to be. You know, when I was in school, I did enjoy engineering, but there were days where you're just stressed and this is awful. I just want to be done with this. But so far, this whole program's been like every single class, they apply it to real world cases and everything. And I've enjoyed it greatly.
You know what's cool about that? It's like, I think if you do pursue a master's or an MBA or something like that, I mean, it's not for everyone, number one. But number two, I think if you have some real world experience and then you're in the classes, then you can kind of apply that, because there's a lot of people that go from, their undergrad to getting their master's, then to getting their PhD. And next thing you know, they're entering the workforce at 32 with 0 years of experience, and understanding how the classroom topics apply to the real world. But I think that's great that you actually have that real world, and you can kind of tie the academics to actual real world. If I say real world one more time, I think we're just going to start over, but you can actually apply that to real life examples. So I think that's great. And you're done in May, huh?
Yeah. So like I said, one more class and I'll be done. So, like I said, I have enjoyed it, but at the same time, I am ready to be done because, when I was in school for my undergrad, that was it. It was just school, and then everything else was mine. But now it's work, and then when I'm done with work, you got school. So
there's no time off. No time off. So let's get this kicked off, man. I want to hear. So let me give a brief background. Him and I have a mutual, I guess he's a friend now. So you and I have a mutual friend, and I was talking to him about coming on the podcast, and he said, no. I want to get you one of the most interesting people that I know out there, and it was you. All right. So this is why you're here. Let's get started on your background. And then I would love to get into your travels in South America, you climbing the Himalayan mountains when you had an opportunity to, okay. And kind of everything in between. So why don't you just get us kicked off, kind of a little background, where you're from, where to school, blah, 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 all that stuff.
All right. Well, hopefully I don't let you down. Maybe our mutual friend doesn't have very many exciting other friends, but no, I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, and played soccer my whole life, really enjoyed it, and got the opportunity to go play soccer in college at a small little school called Case Western up in Ohio. And went up there, had a really good first season, but I don't know if it was just my first experience away from home or it was Cleveland or what it was, but it just didn't really enjoy it, didn't really fit in very well there. So ended up quitting the team, lost scholarship, couldn't afford the school. So it's like, well, going back to Texas, and ended up at A&M. Still played soccer, but just club. And the whole way through, I was always getting a mechanical engineering degree when I was at Case and when I was at Texas A&M. I just really enjoyed it, always knew it's what I wanted to do, but didn't exactly know the job I wanted to do with it. So I remember when I was getting pretty close to finishing my my degree. It was my senior year actually, and we had finals coming up, and I had a couple job offers. All of them were about the same. They were all, design work, going to work in Houston just because close proximity with Texas A&M, a lot.
And it wasn't oil and gas.
Well, kind of actually. One was actually with Cameron. So it was running like subsea equipment and stuff. So oil and gas, but way upstream.
Right.
The design portion of it. So, but either way, it wasn't something I was after. I'm not a petroleum engineer. I wasn't trying to get into oil and gas, but a buddy comes in and we're in college, just poor as can be, always looking for a free meal. And he's like, hey, there's this company here called Schlumberger, and they got a free barbecue going on down the hallway if you want to go check it out. I'm like, well, yeah, absolutely. And, I've been studying all day. So it's like, all right, let's do this. So I'm running down the hallway, and A&M's a big school. There's plenty of buildings I still to this day haven't been inside.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a set of double doors at the end of this hallway, and I'd never been in this room in my entire life. Seen it, walked past it every single day, didn't know anything about it. And I just kind of kicked open these doors, and I was moving pretty quick, and I landed on a stage. Like it was, there was an actual presentation going on, and the audience was filled with people wearing suits.
Oh, God.
Up, and there was a lady at the podium, and she just turns around because I was behind her, and she's just staring at me just in disbelief what's going on. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought there was a barbecue here. And everyone just starts laughing. Like everyone in the crowd starts laughing. And she was a representative from Schlumberger. And she's like, yes, there's barbecue. It's after. This is like an information session, whatever. She's like, why don't you go have a seat? Well, I go sit down, and later on there is barbecue that's brought. So I get my plate and I'm trying to head out the door. And she's like, you actually handled that situation pretty well. Like you have some confidence in you. Like, how about you send me your resume? And I was just like, really? You want a resume from me? And she's like, yeah. And next thing you know, I had a job offer, and I was headed over to Abu Dhabi in the Middle East.
That was your first. So the whole, you said Schlumberger, and I think that's hilarious because yeah. Thank you. I know that, but I was saying, it's funny you say that because I remember I got my master's in France, and I got back and I couldn't find a job. I didn't know anything about the oil field or anything like that. Marketing background, Master of Science European Business, was like an MBA business focused. And I'm in Houston. I'm trying to do this old Aggie network thing, right? It's like, so I graduated at A&M too, and I'm calling all these people. And I called this one lady, and at Schlumberger, and I was talking to her, like, hey, I really admire your company, just trying to sell it to her, right? Be like, looking, is there any opportunities? And I was like, hey, yeah, at the end of the conversation, like a 7-minute conversation, I was like, oh yeah, that's so great. And I look forward to, I love Schlumberger, and I've always followed y'all, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what y'all do. She's like, oh, okay, guy. Anyway, didn't hear back from him, but yes. And I told my dad that. He's like, it's a French company, and you lived in France for a year and a half.
There the whole time. Yeah.
So now I know it's Schlumberger permanently now. So yeah.
Yeah. So do I. It's especially, I think I made the same mistake, but she was a little more forgiving to me.
So you're rolling in there for a free meal and get some barbecue. Next thing you know, it's like, hey, shoot us your application.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I handed her the resume, and then after that, I got a phone call. That's back when oil and gas was booming. They had a little more money back then, so they actually flew me out to Arkansas for an on-site interview where you got to go see a rig, and I'd never seen a rig in my entire life. That was my
so
first.
You were very ingrained to the oil and gas industry.
Oh yeah, I don't have any family in it, nothing. So
okay.
I had zero expectation. I'm on a rig. It sounded exciting, like everything in the oil and gas industry is big. So when you see it for the first time, you're like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is the epitome of engineering. So and it just sounded exciting, potential to go internationally. So I was like, yeah, I'll do this. And within a week after that trip, she was like, yeah, you've got. Actually, it was spring break. I still remember that. I was in Las Vegas, and you're not allowed to have your phone at the tables in Vegas whenever you're gambling. So right. I get a phone call, and I see it's her. So I had to step away from the table. And she's like, hey, I'm sorry to kind of put you on the spot like this, but we're going to give you a job offer, and you have to choose between 5 countries right now. It's like right now, like I was not in a state to be making this decision.
How many days are you in Vegas at this point?
This was day number 2, which is more than what you need.
That's okay. So right now you're at the decline level, just trying to
decline. I'm pretty ready to get out of there, but at the same time, I've got friends around me. We're having a good time, and I'm put on the spot. And the choices were, one was the U.S. and it was offshore in the Gulf of Mexico.
All right.
It was Colombia, India, China, and then Abu Dhabi was the other one. So ultimately, I'm still like excited, trying to impress, and I want to show interest in the job. So I'm just like, I don't know a lot about these countries. How about you send me to where you think I'm going to get the best experience? Sounds like a great answer, right? Like,
yeah,
right, that was the worst thing I could have done. She sent me to Abu Dhabi, which nothing against Abu Dhabi, but as far as like operationally, they run more tools, you know, they have more activity, just everything about it. You're going to be busy over there. And looking back on it, I should have picked Colombia.
Looking back on that, actually, let's talk about that. So you went from, you said you grew up in Dallas, right?
Yeah, Fort Worth.
So Fort Worth, and then you go to Ohio to start your thing. You get kind of homesick, you know. You don't know what it is, kind of homesick. So you come back here, and next thing you know, your first actual position is halfway around the world.
Yep, getting further and further away.
So how was that for you? I mean, I guess.
You know, college, you know, the step from high school to college, not only just like from a school perspective, but just like independence is huge. You know, nothing really prepares you for that. And maybe I just wasn't ready when I went up to Case, but yeah, maybe it was just the weather was miserable. Maybe it was Cleveland. I don't know. But yeah, I was ready to be a little closer to home. But then after being at A&M for a while, I mean, even though it's a 3-hour drive, you know, I never really went home.
Yeah.
And by the time Abu Dhabi came around, it's like, no, I can do this. And I got to tell you, when I first got over there, I never really did get the homesickness. Like I was over there for about 2 years, and I mean, I came home plenty of times, but I was never like homesick or it's like
right.
awful. I need to get back. Like I enjoyed it. Honestly, I really had a good time while I was over there.
And plus the expat community over in the Middle East it's such a good community.
Yeah.
I mean, you can people from everywhere, from Scotland, from, you know, the U.S., from pretty much everywhere, kind of over there, kind of, and so it does create a great expat community. Because I spent a little time in Saudi as well, so I enjoyed. I mean, it was probably a little bit more boring than Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, Abu Dhabi, there's plenty to do, and like you said, everyone's in the same boat, so you automatically have something in common with everybody, and at the same time, they just kind of become your family. You know, they all left home to do the same thing, work in the same industry, so you guys naturally come together. And it was kind of weird. You had friends that were, you know, like 55 years old, just bar with them, just because that's how it was. You know, you didn't even think about it. It was kind of a different world, but really good experience. I enjoyed it a lot.
So did you know the difference between Dubai and Abu Dhabi?
Before I got there, no. I do
now do you know?
I definitely did. So there's 7 Emirates. One is Abu Dhabi, one's Dubai, for those that don't know. But I'll tell you what, the money's actually in Abu Dhabi. Dubai is what everybody thinks of as, you know, glamorous, the nice cars and everything else. But the people that actually have the money, they're in Abu Dhabi. That's where a lot of the oil and gas is. So,
well, my answer.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say my answer to that was the best way to tell the Dubai and Abu Dhabi apart is people in Dubai don't like the Flintstones, and people in Abu Dhabi do.
Oh my gosh!
So that's kind of a way to remember it for those out there.
I walked right into that. Right into it.
I love how your answer. I love how your answer. Like, well, actually, historically speaking, it started this.
Nope.
Nope. You can't. So okay. So you're over there for 2 years, and you're meeting. Obviously, you know, you got friends that are 55 from all over the globe, and you're enjoying it, right?
Yeah.
So then talk to me about kind of how you kind of wrapped up over there, and then what happened after that.
Yeah. So you know, Abu Dhabi, it was a really good place to live. I enjoyed it. You know, really safe city, plenty of things to do. The problem was, you know, all that excitement that I was looking forward to be on the rigs and everything else. Well, it was a little too much of that. I think my first year there, I had 300 rig days, which is quite a bit for 1 year. You know,
yeah.
You're going to consider the other days aren't just days off. You're you know, doing a calibration or something like that. So, anyways, I was just kind of getting worked to death, and I was a little unhappy. And a lot of that work over there is nighttime remote stuff. So you're on the rig, and you're the only day guy, and then at night there's no other. You don't have a counterpart. So I was essentially alone a lot.
Right.
Pretty interesting rules about the internet and cameras and things like that. So you're pretty isolated. The only thing really to do is read a book, and after enough of that, you're like, all right, I'm ready to get out. But anyways, how I eventually ended up leaving was there was a buddy that I had from the UK, same boat as me. He was probably 2-3 years older than I am. His name was Ollie, and Oliver, Ollie short for Oliver. But anyways, we had a problem on one of our jobs. Nothing with what we were doing, just the job itself was complicated. So they sent out an extra guy just because I was working a lot. You know, like everybody, you have those weeks where you're up 40 in a row and whatever else. And so they sent him out there, and I had known him before. We had met at a bar and had a good time. And every time I was in town, if he was there, we'd hang out and stuff. But we were out there for like 40 days together on this one job. And just he was talking to me about traveling. He had a girlfriend in Brazil, well, a former girlfriend, and he had been to South America quite a few times. It's like, I've only been to Brazil, but I'd like to see the rest of it. Like, you and I should go sometime, just one of those bullshit.
Yeah, that you're like, yeah, oh, dude, definitely,
like,
man. Sounds cool.
Go do that. And I remember he left that job and I got sent to another job. And I was on the rig and I got a phone call from him. And he was like, hey, man, I went ahead and, turned in my couple weeks notice. Like, when are you quitting? Like, what do you mean, when am I quitting? And he's like, yeah, we're doing this, man. We're going to South. And I was like, what? No, I wasn't ready for this at all. And I started thinking about it. And it's like, why not? There's no reason not to. I'm kind of tired of this. Like, let's do it. I got a little money saved up. Let's get out of here. So I turned in my couple weeks notice. And because we all had work visas, they had to take our passports where the visa was, and they had to go cancel that. So I wasn't allowed to work in that time, but that process took about a month.
Oh,
so I'm paid for a month without working. So I'm just in town with this guy that's about to go on the trip with me. So we really get to know each other. We're going out every night, going to bars, having a good time, doing all the stuff we weren't able to do.
Right.
Like Formula One's really big out there, went to a lot of those races, all kinds of stuff. And he flew back to the UK and I flew back to Texas. And that was it. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm just, we had our fun in Abu Dhabi. That's the end of this. So I was back for about a week where I was just hanging out with my family, hadn't seen him in a while. And I get a phone call and he's like, hey, man, my flight lands in Dallas tomorrow. Are you going to pick me up from the airport? I was like, what do you mean your flight lands in Dallas tomorrow? He's like, yeah, I'm coming from I'll come. We'll be in Texas, figure out a game plan, and then we'll head on to South America. And this guy, I knew him, but I didn't really know him. I only knew him like a month essentially. And it's like, well, shit, man, this is getting kind of real. I wasn't really prepared to go I just got back. My family's happy to see me. I wasn't really ready for this. But sure enough, he shows up. And my parents' house was actually under a little bit of construction. They were remodeling a bathroom and some stuff. So we're at my grandma's house. Just didn't have any room. So it's just him, my grandma, myself, just hanging out for about a week. And obviously my grandma's retired and everything. So we're just having glasses of wine every day, eating, just hanging out. And it was getting to the point where it was fun, but it was a little sad. It's like, dude, we gotta do something with our lives. We can't be getting drunk on Wednesdays. And
with my grandmother.
Yeah, with my grandmother. We're like, let's do it. So we just bought one-way plane tickets to Costa Rica. Figured that was, first of all, Costa Rica was one of the cheapest flights. I know that's not in South America, but it was close. And it was cheap. And we just bought one-way plane tickets, left the next day. And that was it, man. Started off on the journey.
I love the peer pressure to action move by this guy, Ollie. Number one, he's sitting there sharing a pint with you. He's like, oh, we should totally do this. Those pie in the sky conversations. Yeah, sure. Let's do that. Next thing you know, hey, man, can you pick me up at the airport? What? It felt like it was a lot of peer pressuring, but in a good way.
Oh, man, that's the story of this guy. Honestly, I wouldn't have done half the things I've done in my life without this guy. And most of them were getting me in trouble. But he's just super energetic, really outgoing, always wants to do something. And I just went along for the ride, to be honest. I just didn't say no. It's like, yeah, why not, man? Let's do it.
So what was your game plan? Are you just a one-way? First off, a one-way ticket is very kind of, that's an open book. That's kind of like, that
was the commitment.
A lot of people like traveling and knowing when they're going to be back. I know, I'm going to be here for 7 days, a week, or 10 days, and I'll be back in my home. And I was like, that one-way ticket, though, that's kind of a commitment to be like, hey, man, whatever life throws at you, you're just going to roll with it.
Yeah. And, I will say Costa Rica, it was pretty easy to buy another flight just to come home. So that was kind of the story of the trip. Is like everything, the next step, every single step of the way was harder than the step before. And if you had just started the trip on the last step, you would have been like, no way, that's impossible, But because we started where we did, every little thing was just incrementally harder in a way, to where by the end of it, it's just like nothing faced you. You're just like, that's fine.
Well, tell me about this experience. So you land in Costa Rica, one-way ticket.
Yep. So we land in Costa Rica. Obviously, the weather's amazing. We just hang out on the beach for a while, just enjoying our time. And we knew that we wanted to buy a vehicle and something just to get around with, because otherwise you're just stuck, right? You got your backpack, you're taking buses all over the place, and you're hitting just the gringo trail, essentially, right. All the big cities. And it's like, man, I want to get off this trail. Let's go do our own thing. Let's get a car. So we started researching a little bit, and in Panama, there's this little sliver of land which actually connects to South America called the Darien Gap. I don't know if you've ever heard of this before, but it's completely impassable. Yeah, okay. There's roads that go through it. There's drug cartels and all kinds of stuff down there. The FARC, you don't want to go through there.
Okay.
So basically, you're either flying or you're taking a boat. So it's like, well, I guess we're not buying a car until we actually get to South America. So when we were in Panama, we actually found this guy that he just sails from Panama to Colombia, just shuttling people essentially. And so we just got on with him and got on his catamaran, and he just took us 5 days across the ocean just into Colombia. And that's when we really started looking for the car.
And so you just found this guy just talking to locals or just trying to find out how he can get past this war zone pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it wasn't illegal by any means. I mean, you're allowed to enter by boat. It was just, how do we want to get there? Do we want to spend, X amount of dollars on a plane ticket, or do we want to spend that money on paying this guy to take us sailing, and you stop along a couple islands on the way, have a good time, like swimming, catching some lobsters for dinner. It was good, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a really good time. That's the only way to do it if anyone ever gets the opportunity.
That's the only way to do it. And this is advice right now from Colten. The only way to do it is just get a one-way ticket and figure it out from there.
Yeah, honestly,
that's it.
I mean, it made it more exciting. And then honestly, after the first couple of weeks, you stop stressing about it. You're just having fun. And it's like, who cares? Like, I don't have an agenda. It doesn't matter where I'm going tomorrow. And
you're not tied to your phone. You're not tied to meetings. You're not tied to
Outlook. Nothing. Yeah. And honestly, we've just moved whenever we were tired of it. Like we never really had an agenda like, hey, let's spend a week here, then we're going to go here. It was just like, no, man, this place, I was planning on driving through, but now that we're here, this is awesome. We're staying indefinitely, like we're never leaving this place. But yeah, a lot of it was the people, you meet some good friends and they all have travel plans as well. So they end up leaving slowly. And so by the time everybody's gone, you're like, all right, it's time for us to move on. And you just kind of keep repeating that process all the way down.
Just make camp down the road.
Yep, exactly. But
I mean, with that mindset of like, okay, well, we've been in Costa Rica for a couple of weeks. We're now in Panama. Like having that mindset, okay, now it's time to buy a car. That's kind of that. Also, I feel like that's also kind of planting the seed. Like, hey, we're going to be here a little bit longer than the 3 to 7 weeks we initially thought. Like that's a commitment right there.
Yeah. So we didn't have the car at this point. So still, it felt a little safe. And this is what I'm talking about. Incrementally, it gets harder. So now we've sailed. We've done all this stuff. We're in Colombia now. Like things are just picking up.
How was Colombia?
Colombia is amazing. The people are really interested in you. They want to come practice English with you. They want to talk to you. We were down. I'm a big soccer guy.
Yeah.
We were down there. The Colombian national team was playing. So, we're wearing jerseys, and they shut down all the grocery stores and they set up all the chairs inside. So you're just in a grocery store packed with a bunch of people, and they have televisions where they're playing the game, and you'll just like flag someone working there. It's like, hey, go get me, a drink, or go get me a bag of chips, whatever. And they'll go get, so you're like, it's like being in a bar, except you're in a grocery store. So your selection is much wider. You can just order whatever you want. And no, it was great, man. We had a really good time.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing. Not to interrupt, but I mean, just people that haven't gone over. I mean, people act like, oh, I'm a huge, A&M fan, or the Steelers or Buffalo, whatever that is. I mean, yeah, I feel like people are super fans here, but down there, that is their life.
Oh,
I
man.
mean,
People,
globally. I mean, in a global realm, I mean, whether it's France, South America, whatever, football is huge over there.
Oh yes, which I fell right into. I already loved it. And
yeah,
he wasn't the biggest soccer guy, but yeah, sure enough, a couple weeks down there, we're all wearing the jerseys, walking around the streets. Like
you get into it.
Blast. But
so you're in Colombia. The food was good.
Yeah, food was good. We actually took a little time when we first got there. It's like, hey, we've struggled a little bit at the start of the trip just with Spanish. None of us were proficient in Spanish. And it's like, why don't we actually sit down and take a couple lessons while we're here? So we stayed in Cartagena for about 2 weeks, took some lessons. We were living with a family while we were there that does things like that for people trying to learn Spanish. That way you're completely immersed. And it helped us quite a bit. I know it's only 2 weeks, but I mean, when you're really just trying to buy gas, buy food, things like that, 2 weeks is almost more than enough than what you need to really just kind of get by.
Right.
Obviously, we wanted more than that, but it was going to take time. So in the meantime, we're also looking for cars, trying to, hey, I don't even know how to do this. Legally, how do you buy a car in another country? What kind of car do we even want? The roads in Colombia are fine, but once we get to, the Andes and everything, it's going to be mountain passes. Do we need like an SUV? And luckily, we actually found a country right next door, Ecuador. There were these American guys that had bought this souped up Mitsubishi L300 that was like an overlanding vehicle. So it was like a little camper van, but it had low range. So it had, like 4-wheel drive. You could climb up a mountain on it, but it had 2 beds in it, had a little refrigerator. So think like
that's perfect.
Yeah, think minivan, so not camper van, think minivan, but on steroids. So it's like, man, this is like a dream come true. This is perfect. So right around that same time, we were talking to these guys. My buddy and I, we were very guilty of this the whole way through. Is, man, we'd go out to bars and you'd come out and the street food was amazing. You just come outside. It's 3:00 in the morning. There's vendors everywhere selling you whatever you want, fried cheese, meat, whatever it is. And they had these meat sticks, is what my buddy and I always called them. And every single time you come out, you're a little drunk. They have meat sticks. That's what you want. Like, I want this right now. I'm getting one. I don't care how dangerous this is. Every single time we did this, we got sick. And when I say sick, I mean sick, like really bad sick. So we went to the hospital when we were in Colombia, and the guy was like, hey, I know exactly what you have. We're not really going to be able to treat this here. You need to cross the border. Like, you need to get out of here. And we're like, really? And he's like, yeah. So we went in, bought a plane ticket over to Quito in Ecuador, which is where the van guys were anyway. So it kind of got off the plane, straight to the hospital, big shot in our ass. And man, just, I don't know what that was. I don't know what we had, but instantly better. Just, yeah. And it was like $10 or something for the whole shebang, to go get a room, hospital, stay in a bed. Someone comes in, gives you a shot, $10, you're out, ready to go. So it's like, this is
question. Looking back on it, would you get the meat stick again?
Well, there were multiple instances after this that I did get meat sticks. And
perfect. I love that. I love that. Okay. All right.
We'll get to a bad one. There was a bad meat stick incident much later in the future. But
this doesn't sound like a good meat stick incident. So if they progressively, the meat stick incidents get worse, I'm all in. Let's hear this.
Yeah. So I mean, hopefully my immune system's just rocking and rolling now after all this stuff we're putting through. But anyways, met up with these American guys. They had the car, and man, this thing was perfect. And
what were they doing down there?
So they actually bought the car off some Czechoslovakian guys that had shipped it over from the Czech Republic a long time ago. And they had quit their jobs in the U.S. and just decided they were doing what we were doing, essentially. And so it was kind of perfect, except they had gone the other way, and they were ready to go home. So we met them on the north side of South America, and they had started from the south.
Gotcha.
Come up. So they were ready to go home, and it was just kind of the perfect handoff. And there was a little bit of a trust thing where it's like, oh man, this car, like, it's just going to break down. How's this going to work? And on top of that, we have to it was $8,000 is how much we were paying him for this car, which was definitely a ripoff, but whatever. It was for the experience.
You know what? It's a ripoff, but at the same time, you also got a place to sleep. You're not spending that on hotels. I mean, okay.
Yeah, no, very true. And we're cooking in it, living in it, getting off the beaten path. And it was $4,000 out of my pocket, $4,000 out of his. But anyways, just to make it a little more trustworthy, we bought it from them, did the wire transfer and everything, and then they rode around with us for like 2 weeks in the van, just the four of us hanging out, just going on little adventures together, and good time until the handoff eventually came, where it's like, all right, guys, you're out of here, and we're gonna head south. Yeah, thanks for the van. And we still kind of keep in touch with those guys, send them pictures of the van, and here's what we did. What did you guys do? And then the guy we ended up selling it to, like months later, we try to keep in touch with him too. We've kind of lost touch, all of us, but he was sending us pictures. So Juan Sanchez, that was the name of the van, and it lives on. It lives on.
Sanchez. Juan Sanchez lives on everyone's heart forever.
Yep.
But I love that how it's just a random van that obviously has so many miles and so many different stories behind it. It's just being kind of like passed on to these, and you guys are still like kind of keeping these circles.
Oh yeah. And man, everybody put work into it. I mean, obviously when it was new and all the modifications they made were pretty awesome, but then the American guys had a breakdown on them plenty of times. In fact, while we were buying it from them, we blew a head gasket, and that's a big job. That's taking the engine apart. That's, the shop. Yeah. And we waited together while it was getting fixed and everything, because that was when it was a little timid, like, oh God, are we getting hosed on this thing? Are they just taking our money and running, knowing they had a head gasket problem? But no, they stuck around, and we got it all fixed, and it was like $250, like fix a head gasket, complete engine tear down, like unbelievable.
That's it?
Yeah, it was nothing. So put it back together, and man, from then on out, we were breaking down all over the place. Just random things would go out. We had locking hubs. One of those broke down, just electrical issues, everything you can imagine. And you're always in the smallest, most inconvenient place every single time it happens.
That's how it works.
Yep. Actually, are you familiar at all with the Bolivian salt flats? That like iconic.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. The icon. Yeah.
yeah, just that flat as far as you can see, salt flat with sometimes you get some water out there and the reflection between the sky and everything else. Well, we were about to do that and like drive it ourselves. And that part of it is really like the first hour. And then after that, you're crossing from Bolivia into Chile. And it's like a 4-day like trip at like 4,000 meters. So you're at altitude, the car's having trouble because it's, not getting enough oxygen. You're having trouble because you're not getting enough oxygen. And the whole thing's off road. It's not flat as a pancake like that. Most of it's like, dirt roads that are beat up. So pretty much every time my buddy drove the cars when it broke down. So we start off going onto the salt flats and he was just hauling ass because it's flat as a pancake. But then it immediately turned into the dirt road. And the suspension just did not handle this bump that we hit at high speed. And we just broke our front suspension. And it was like, well, shit, man, we've got 3 more days of like limping through the desert here.
And you're literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, there's nothing around here. So we actually decided, we're going to cut our losses and turn around and just limped back. There's a tiny little town, but not paved roads, nothing. Like it is ghost town, Wild West stuff. And we found a welder out there who just like looked at it and he's like, man, this is never going to be the same, but I'll do it. And it might get you across, but you're going to need to get a new spring eventually. So he welded it up. We come, flying out again. It's like, yes, we're back on track. This is perfect. I'm driving this time. No problems. And the very next day, it's his turn to drive. We rotated every single day. First thing, he'd been driving 10 minutes. And sure enough, hits another bump, shatters that spring again. So this time we're like a couple days into the journey and it's like, well, we're committed now. Like we're limping through the desert now. So that was pretty miserable actually. And we were actually pretty scared we were going to run out of fuel.
Yeah, I was going to say, how much fear was on that? You're in the middle of this country it's y'all's first time being there. You're in these salt flats. You have a village welder welding up the axle. Was it scary?
So we had broken down quite a few times before this had happened. So it wasn't too scary, but at the same time, it was like, well, what was scary is 4 days, right, to get across this desert. Sorry, my dog's whining at me.
No worries.
But we had 2 fuel tanks. We had the primary, which came with the vehicle, and then the guys that had modified it put on an extended fuel tank. So our range was like 550 miles or something. Like it was pretty
okay.
But at the same time, when you're limping along, just barely moving because your suspension's broken, the car's on running, you're just burning fuel for no reason. So we were actually starting to get worried about that. And where you finish, you actually enter Chile at the top of like a mountain. You're at like 4,000 meters or whatever. And then you hit tarmac, really nice paved road. And you can see this town in Chile called San Pedro de Atacama. And it is... it's probably at like 1,000 meters elevation and you can just see it. And it's this perfect straight road, just flying down a mountain, going into town. And that's where you end up crossing the border. Okay.
I'm looking at it right now on my phone.
Yeah. Go check it out. It's a really cool town. But either way, we before we got there, it's like, man, we're not going to make it. Like we need gas of some kind, but there's nothing out here. And we see this like fire burning on the side. There's volcanoes everywhere. And there's like fire burning on the side of one of these volcanoes. And then we figure out it's like a mining company. I don't know what they're after, sulfur or something. Who knows? And it's like, well, man, they've got excavators, all kinds of stuff over there. Let's go. They're going to have fuel. Like, let's just go ask them. So we go over there and the guys are like, what are you doing out here? And we're trying, they all speak Spanish, obviously. And we're trying our best. It's like, no, this is a gasoline powered car, not a diesel car. And they're like, yeah, this is gasoline. You'll be fine. It's like, okay. So we siphoned some into our truck or our van and put it into the spare fuel tank. And so by the time we hit the tarmac, I'm on empty and I'm the one driving at this point. It was my day to drive. And I'm like, hey man, I'm going to hit the pump and we're going to swap the fuel tank from the rear into the front. And we're going to take that, hopefully good fuel from those guys and put it in the car. So we start going down the mountain. And there's all these, out of control truck runaway things just because it's such a steep road, with it, gravel where it'll just stop you in case your brakes go out. And we're flying down this thing and I'm looking out like the side mirror because our rear view mirror, the car was so modified, you couldn't see out the back of it. I'm looking out the side mirrors and I'm like, dude, there is a ginormous black smoke cloud coming out the back of our car. Like what is going on? And our car was pretty much on fire. And I was like, oh shit. So we stop on the side of the road. Brakes are fine. We don't have to use the runaway thing or anything, but we stop and we're trying to figure out what's going on. And we start looking at it and we had put diesel in our gasoline powered car. So it's coming out of like every seam. It's pretty much cleaning our engine in a way, but it's like, oh man, like we're both petroleum, or we're not petroleum engineers, but we work in the petroleum industry. We know better. Like, come on, we should know the difference between diesel and gasoline. But anyway, so it's like, well, what are we going to do? And we're just sitting there, and it's like, well, this is a huge hill. Why don't we just roll down to the town? Like, just hop back and just leave the engine off. We'll be fine. There's no cars, like whatever. We got all the runaway truck things. Like, we're going to be fine. So we start going, and the car gets up to like 80 miles per hour pretty quick. You know, we're coming down this thing, and I'm starting to hit the brakes a little because there's a couple little turns, and the brakes are not working. The car has to be on for the brakes to work. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, but it's a manual transmission, right? So like I just pop it into like the highest gear, and then the car jumps on at speed, and then I start braking, but it's still diesel. So then the smoke starts coming out the back again. So then I turn the car off, and we're like repeating this process. And I'm like, dude, like this is not sustainable. Like we're going to destroy the car doing this. So he just opens his door as we're coming down this mountain, and uses his leg to just like hold it open as we're driving. And
to slow you all down?
I shit you not. It slowed us down like 15 miles an hour. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I opened my door, and we're both just like holding the doors open. And man, we were cruising at like 45 miles per hour down this hill with both the doors open.
I can imagine just kind of being on the side of the road and looking at this Mr. Bean, naked gun looking,
flying down with smoke
with two dudes with the doors open. Like, who the hell are these cats? Like, what the hell's wrong with these guys? Like, what a scene. Okay. So, all right. So you're figuring out how to slow down the van by kicking the doors open, which is, I love it. I love that move, by the way. Very safe, very smart.
I'm a smart person I ever knew in my life. He has a master's degree in engineering. He's working on his PhD right now. He was a smart guy, but he did a lot of dumb stuff. As he always said, he hid his intelligence very well.
I love that though. All right. So you guys are coasting in, and where are you in Chile now?
Yeah, we're in Chile, but we haven't officially, we've officially crossed like the border, but we haven't checked into the country. That's what that town is. It's like your first stop where you
what town is it called again?
San Pedro.
San Pedro. Okay.
That's on the side right there. It's the driest desert in the world, like really beautiful place. But anyway, so we roll into the town, and it's like a typical checkpoint, like it's a border crossing, right? And we stamp our passports, we do everything you're supposed to do, and then they're like, all right, go and move. And it's like, no, you saw us rolling in here, man. We're not moving. Like, the car's sitting there. Where's your mechanic? And they're like, oh my God. So we had to get a mechanic out to the border and like, siphon all the fuel out, clean all the lines, put the correct fuel in it, and we were up and running again. Like,
I love how you're siphoning fuel like it's a 1980s action flick.
I have tasted fuel so many times in my life now. It's unbelievable.
Okay.
The way the extended tank worked, like there was no good way to get it out. Like you were dipping a hose in and sucking it out. There was no other way to get it. That's
so Axel Foley, like 80s. I love it.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna die young. All right.
So all right, let's update everyone right now listening. So from Costa Rica to Panama, to taking the boat over to Colombia, to coming down to Ecuador.
I skipped Peru, but we went to Peru, then we went to Bolivia. Now we're in Chile.
And what's the time frame of landing in Costa Rica till now?
Oh man, we're probably 3 months in at this point.
3 months in?
Yeah,
okay.
So we were weathered at this point. So
I could tell. Sounds like you were weathered.
Like the car breaking down the way it did was fine. Like that was just a normal day with Juan Sanchez.
It's very Mad Max. It's like, let's just survive. Let's keep the car going. Let's survive. Let's get gas and survive.
To be fair though, like I'm making it sound a little cooler than it was, because you got to realize like the roads up there were horrible. And every time you were driving anywhere, there was somebody else in the exact same situation you were just in. Someone on the side of the road, their car's broken somehow, they need a lift. So we were always stopping and giving people rides. And the thing about the van is the way the windows were tinted, we'd always stop and you'd have some guy walking up and he's about to get in the back of the van or whatever. And then he gets in and he looks at us and he's just like, oh my God, what have I just done? Like, cause he was not expecting me and Ollie to be picking him up off the side of the road, and just, it's like they're in a spaceship, just looking around like, what is this? And it's like, hey, man, no, it's fine. Like, we'll take you into town, because we needed help all the time, too. There were always people stopping on the side of the road trying to help us. Like, everyone was trying to get through it together. Like, the roads up there were challenging, and the stops were few and far between.
Yeah, I can imagine, like, you picking someone up. Thank you. They open your van. Next thing, there's, like, 2 beds and, like, a fridge. Like, where's the video cameras? What's going on here? What kind of van is this?
You say that, but you would not believe how many people were willing to get in the van. There was never a question. It was always like, especially like travelers just like us from wherever, Europe or America, wherever. And they'd always be like, yeah, I'll get in just, it could be a girl traveling by herself. She's like, yeah, I'll ride in the van with you. And it's like, nowhere else in the world would this work like this. Like, why is there so much trust among travelers? It's just because everyone's kind of in the struggle together. People are trying to get somewhere. They need help. They already put themselves out in the world and they know how to take care of themselves.
Well, I mean, you're not relying on AAA. You're not relying on Uber. You're kind of relying on yourself and also the relationships you're making on the road.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, I will say, like, so we met a couple. It was this guy and this girl from Ireland, just an amazing couple. The guy was working on a PhD in philosophy. So you can imagine some of the
great conversations.
Yeah. And he'd just always ask you some question that would just blow your mind and you have to sit there and think about it. But anyways, they traveled with us in the van for probably a couple months, looking back at it, just off and on. Like they wouldn't sleep in the van with us, stay in a hostel or hotel or whatever. But going from one point to the next, we were just traveling around with this couple, like really good people. And anyways, so like I said, they're both from Ireland, and we were in a bar one time, and they had full sleeve tattoos, both of them, and one of them had just gotten a new tattoo on his shoulder. So tattoos were on the mind. Okay, everyone was talking about tattoos. And oddly enough, this guy, we were in Bolivia when this actually happened. This guy comes in and he's a tattoo artist from Bolivia. He's just a local guy and he's got like this portable kit and he brings it into the bar and he's just giving tattoos to people who want tattoos at this bar. Which is,
you buy a drink, you get a free tattoo.
Well, it's not a free tattoo. You got to pay the guy. But the point, it's like the shadiest thing you've ever seen in your life. So at this point, like I was telling you, every step was incrementally harder than the one before. So we kind of had a motto going, which was always unprepared. Like whatever the situation was, we were always unprepared for the situation. So anyways, my buddy was heavily hitting on this girl. And for some reason, he thought it would be very impressive to her if he went and got always unprepared tattooed on his ass. Just right there at the bar. And I was a mess. Like I had a couple drinks in me and I was just like, dude, don't do it. It was his first tattoo. He didn't have any tattoos. Like, this is stupid. What are you doing? It's permanent. Like, don't do this. And there happened to be another girl there that was, really encouraging me as well. And then the Irish girl we had traveled with, the girl part of the couple, she's like, he's going to get a tattoo. You should get a tattoo. Like, commemorate the trip. You both get it, whatever. And I'll make you a deal. If you get a tattoo, and you come to Ireland, I will get a tattoo of you on my ass. That's what she said. I was like, what? Like, that's a deal you've got to do. And we pinky promised on it, and that's unbreakable. So
that's completely unbreakable, by the way. International law.
No, absolutely. So I actually ended up with ¿Por qué no? Which means why not in Spanish, tattooed on my ass because of that.
Well, at a bar
in Bolivia
with a portable tattoo kit.
Yeah, and it's still there. It was a very permanent tattoo for how portable the tattoo.
Well, look. We don't have to. Were you happy with the quality of it?
It actually looks really good, and I was concerned there were grammatical errors, but it came out really well. And I got to tell you, since getting this tattoo and like telling people the story, I now personally know 4 other people actually that have gotten it because of me getting this tattoo.
Wait. Like getting that tattoo, ¿por qué no?
Yeah, getting the exact same one. So as an example, years later, when I was working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks on, still in the oil and gas industry, I went to Nicaragua just for 2 weeks with a buddy I met at my work. And we were down there and we were telling the story about the tattoo. He always wanted a tattoo. And we just went out that night and he got it on his bicep, ¿Por qué no? Tattooed right there. And ¿Por qué no? Has 2 question marks, one in the front, one in the back, right, upside down or whatever. And he kept saying ¿por qué?, like one word, ¿por qué? And I was like, no, that's not what we want, because that means because no. We wanted why not. So por space K space no. And so I was like pretty happy with myself. It's like, man, they almost screwed up your tattoo, but I caught it. Don't worry about it. Next day we woke up and I was looking at his tattoo and I was like, man, there's something wrong with this. Like, I do not know what it is, but your tattoo is not right. I don't know what it is. There's something wrong. And I figured it out. Not only was his question mark upside down, it was inverted, like you were looking in a mirror. So the guy had just like screwed up an upside down question mark, which kind of makes it even funnier. But anyways, yeah, he's one of them, and a couple other people have gotten it too since I got it.
So let's talk about the acceptance on getting this tattoo. So this ¿por qué no? Tattoo, I kind of feel like you got your blood, sweat, and tears in this. You got $4,000 in this. You got these village welders. You got the soft flats. You're opening the card. I felt like the bar y'all deserved the tattoo.
Oh yeah, I felt it very fitting as well. Why not? You know?
Yeah, so I kind of feel like a little 2-week trip. I mean, it's kind of like you get the same tattoo after 2 weeks, or I feel like it should be. I feel like you have to earn that tattoo.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
And everyone that has it did earn it. I will say.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Yep.
That's what it's not a trend. It's not a fad. I mean, people still are earning this Por qué no tattoo, right?
Everyone that I know that has it earned it, but I can't speak for everybody.
That's no, that's fine. I'm just making sure it's your circles that you're okay with them getting it.
No, I was okay with it, but yeah, it's still with me. It's the only tattoo I have.
Do you have any? Are you inclined to get any more tattoos?
I'm not, like I never really wanted one. I'm not against them or anything. It's just I don't know. I'm a pretty skinny guy. Never looked.
Man, I'm the same way, man. I don't have any tattoos. My wife has some, and like my brother had a bunch. My sister has a bunch. Like I just don't have any. Number one, I cannot make a decision. Okay, like when it comes to like ordering appetizers, it's like, oh shit, I don't know. I'm lost. I don't know what to get. Like I can't imagine like putting some. But I feel like a trip like that, and there's a dude at a bar doing tattoos, and you're getting peer pressure by 3 people. And Ollie, I feel like that you had to do it.
I mean, you never even had a choice.
You had to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyways, I'm going to fast forward through the story real quick. So the next year after South America's done, I've started working again. Like my life's going on. I went to Ireland and I met up with that couple and went to a tattoo shop. And I wanted my face, like a caricature or something of me, like because she had pinky promised me, right, about getting it herself. But when she said it, she was like, no. What I meant was your name. I will get your name. And so I met her halfway and I'm like, okay, that's fine. And we got it all stenciled and everything. But then I intervened and I was like, no, you don't have to do it. Like, so she didn't actually end up getting it, but I just wanted to see if she was going to put her money where her mouth was. But,
and she was.
Yeah. And she absolutely was. And then they just, kind of took me around for 2 weeks, showed me around Ireland. And man, like a lot of the friends I met while I was in South America, I still keep in touch to this day. I met them in other parts of the world. Like it's just,
isn't that awesome? Kind of having that global network of friends that like pings.
Incredible. Yeah.
And you never know where they're going to be in 3 years. They might move over here. They might move to Singapore or wherever. And like it's I love having that like global network of friends that you meet. Yeah. And I love how you met them too, not through the oil industry, but also just getting out there on your own.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, America's a big place. So anytime anyone flies over here, they're like, hey, I'm in Michigan. You want to come see me? And it's like, I know, kind of far, but. But I mean, I've made an effort. Like Ollie, actually, he's like I said, he's working on his PhD. I forgot the school he's at, but Michigan University is a sister school, or they're partners somehow, or there was a conference. I don't know, but it was last year. He actually came, and I just flew up there just to see him because it'd been a couple of years since I'd seen him. It's like, man, it's been too long.
I think after an experience,
like I've been to Iceland with him. He was in Ireland with me as well. Like I've seen him all over the place.
I think after going to an experience like that, I mean, you're bound. You got to stay in touch with. I mean, regardless, y'all are staying in touch.
Yeah, and it's tough. He is, like I said, from the UK, and you can't just travel all the time. Yeah, we're doing our damnedest to keep it alive and well.
So from the tattoo on your ass, how did this trip kind of conclude, and you get back in kind of in the oil and gas industry?
So while we were in South America as well, it wasn't just all let's go to the bars and party and do all this stuff. South America is amazing. I mean, just beautiful scenery, Machu Picchu, all the highlights that you've heard of down there. And I also kind of got into mountaineering a little bit. The first and the third closest points to the sun are actually in Ecuador. It's called Cotopaxi. It's the third closest point to the sun.
Okay.
And Chimborazo is the closest point to the sun. They're both volcanoes. And you think Everest, that has the highest elevation. But when I say closest to the sun, it's because the Earth is not a perfect sphere. So basically, yeah, and we're on the equator, right? So we're on the fattest part. So you're closest to the sun, but it's still high. It's like 20,000 feet.
I was joking when I said it's flat.
Oh, it's flat. Yeah.
And and fat and thick.
On top of these mountains, you'd have your answer. But anyway, so we did kind of turn it into like a little bit of an adventure trip, and we climbed Cotopaxi successfully. We tried to do Chimborazo, but weather kind of canceled us out while we were on the mountain. And as we started going south, we ended up in Mendoza. And we had to make a decision right there where it's like, okay, this is kind of midway through the continent. Either we commit and we say we're going all the way to the tip and going through Patagonia for the next like 6 months, or we just say, hey, this is it. Let's head over to Buenos Aires and sell the car. And, we had done a bunch of climbs, whitewater rafting, like ran with the bulls. We had done like all kinds of stuff. And it's like, I'm kind of I'm kind of over it. I don't know if I want 6 months in the mountains right now. I'm kind of tired. Like, let's head over to Buenos Aires and see if we can sell this car. So that's kind of how it ended. We went over there and stayed for about 2 months actually in Buenos Aires, rented an apartment while we were there just because it's city. We weren't going to live in the van, you know, just stay in a little apartment. And man, it was fun. That was more of the vacation part of the trip versus the adventure part of the trip.
Versus struggling to travel part of the trip.
Luxury at that point. Going out to like Argentina is awesome. Just good nightlife, lots of concerts, steak and wine every night, like living like a king. It was a lot of fun.
And so you were down there for how many months now?
When we ended up leaving, it was 6 months.
6 months. And that's still a lot. I mean, that's a lot of time. I mean, especially when you're roughing it the way y'all were.
Yeah, and Thanksgiving was also coming up, which didn't really mean a lot to Ollie. But for me, it was like, yeah, I haven't, you know, I kind of just saw my family and then you showed up and then I left for another 6 months. Like, it's about time I go home. And the previous holiday I'd missed as well. Like the previous Thanksgiving and Christmas, I was on a rig for those times. So it's like, I haven't had the holidays with my family in forever. Like, it's time to go home, man. Like, I got to get out of here. So we ironically, we found a guy from the Czech Republic that we sold the van to. So full circle, found another guy. It's like, hey, Juan Sanchez, he's home now. Ended up selling to that guy for like, I think it was like $3,000 total. So took a huge loss on the van, but man, it was worth it. You know, just out of our pocket, lost about $2,500 each. Like, but for all the cool little towns we got to stop in and everything we got to see, it was worth it.
You know, you can't put a price on that. I mean, what Juan did for y'all is you can't beat that. You know what I mean? Yeah, if you take a loss, you take a loss. So you pursued you got did you just get into mountaineering down there?
Yeah. So when we flew into Quito, I'm going to make this up. I don't remember what it was, but Quito's at like 3,500 feet or 3,500 meters or 4,000 meters high. It's high.
Okay.
Really high elevation. And while we were up there, it was, you know, tough to breathe, but you get acclimated. And so while we were there, it's like, well, man, we're acclimated now. We've been here a couple of weeks. Like, there's these really cool volcanoes. Like, the prominence of this volcano it's like the most iconic volcano you've ever seen in your life. Just that perfect, like Kilimanjaro style volcano. Right. And it's the third closest point to the sun. It's like, we've got to go climb that. Like, let's go do this. So again, always unprepared. So we go do this thing and it's like blizzard conditions and we had a guide with us, get to the top, can't see anything. There were like 20 people trying to climb this thing. Everybody turned back with their guides except us because it's like, nope, this is the only time we're going to do this. Like, I don't care if we can see anything. Let's just get to the top and call it quits. So we did it and just kind of fell in love with it. Like, just couldn't stop climbing mountains after that. Like, there were just so many to choose from. They're all beautiful. And man, it was awesome. Trekking is kind of the way I like to see the world.
So wait, so is climbing mountains? That's not actually like, is that like cliff? Like
No. I don't have that skill set at all. It's more like mountaineering, like a really intense hike. But you're wearing like crampons with ice axes and things like that, just in case you fall. But it's not, and you're roped together. And you know, people do fall and they slide a little bit and you catch them, but it's not like vertical cliffs or anything. I'm not a great climber.
But that still takes a lot of endurance and
yeah, and man, 18,000 feet's no joke.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really know what elevation is until you get that high, and it's every step is a struggle, and you're just like, gee, like felt like you're running a marathon nonstop. Like,
so you fell in love with the mountaineering, trekking, whatever you deem it on that, and then it brought you over. So our mutual friend mentioned that you also flew over to where?
Nepal. Yeah, over in Nepal. So. Yeah, so when I left South America, I found a job working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off in the oil field again. And I was changing schedules with someone, and the way it worked, I actually ended up with 3 weeks off instead of the 2. So it's like, well, with 3 weeks off, like, I got to make the most of this. I got to go somewhere far, like somewhere hard to get to, you know?
Well, real quick, before we get into the story, how was that adjustment? I guess spending 6 weeks, you know, kind of, you know, surviving, meeting all these people, thriving, all that stuff, to suddenly going back and sitting the rigs like you did previously. And
well, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I actually thought I was going to get out of the oil and gas industry, and I'd been back 1 week. I hadn't even started looking for jobs. I was just enjoying my time with my family. It was around Thanksgiving, like I said. It was actually in between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I was at a bar, and it was a Sunday, and I was just hanging out with some friends I hadn't seen forever. We were, you know, having a brunch or whatever. And friend of a friend was at the bar, and I was just kind of telling him my stories and my experience and everything. And he was like, hey, you know, there's a company that I work for, and they're starting this new division. Like, I think you'd actually be perfect for it if you want to shoot me your resume. And I'm like, yeah. And within like 2 weeks, had an interview, got the job, and that was it. That was how long it took.
Were you happy to go back in the workforce, if you'd call it?
Yeah, I was. It wasn't so much we were spending a lot of money. I think the whole trip, the 6 months with the loss on the van and everything, cost me about $18,000, which really wasn't that bad, especially living like steaks, everything we wanted to do. But at the same time, I wasn't making money for that whole time.
Yeah.
And by that point, it was like almost a year that I'd been out of work. So it's like, all right, I need to actually start making money.
Right.
And, so I was pretty ready to go back. And I actually wasn't sitting on rigs. I was 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off in the office. It was like the ultimate like luxury, perfect dream job. Just going to the office every day for 2 weeks and then 2 weeks off. Like nothing. It was perfect. And I got to keep traveling, which was in my blood now. It's like, all right, every 2 weeks I'm going somewhere. I had 13 international plane tickets that first year back, just always on the move. God. But yeah, no, but anyways, so I was switching schedules with this guy, and I had 3 weeks off, and it was January. So, and that's an important part of the story because it's cold. And I was like, well, I can go to Nepal and I can go see Mount Everest, but it's January. Like, that's got to be the worst time to go see Mount Everest. And I start messaging all these people in Nepal, like all these climbing guides and everything. It's like, hey, like, I just want to go see Everest. Like, can I go see this thing? And everyone's like, man, we don't do that in the wintertime. Like, it's pretty miserable, but, no, I'm going to have to pass. And finally, I found this guy who had actually climbed Everest a couple times. And, well, actually, I didn't find him. I found like his agent, and he was like, yeah, I got a guy that can take you. And I'm like, okay. And then they started like talking me into this climb that you can do right next to Everest. Like, it gets you over 20,000 feet, like just beautiful mountain. And I was like, yeah, I'm really into that. Like, I really want to try it. It's like, okay, perfect. So I go over there, land in Nepal, and man, I'd never been. That's completely different than South America. Just landing in Kathmandu, just people everywhere, and just it's very similar to what I imagine India is like. And I was kind of unprepared for it, but great culture, really good people. The guy picked me up from the airport, introduced me to the guide, and the guy didn't speak any English whatsoever. And it's like, man, I'm about to hike all the way to Mount Everest with this guy. I don't speak any Nepalese. Like, there's no one around. Like, it's just gonna be him and me just walking for weeks together. I was like, yeah, but I'm here, like, screw it. Let's do this thing. So we fly out to go to this small little town called Lukla, really cool airport on the side of a mountain. If you ever get a chance, go look it up. It's called Lukla. And anyways, we land there, and then we start our hike, and we hike all the way to Mount Everest. And there she is, just beautiful as could be. But you can actually only see the tip because the number like 3 and 4 tallest mountains in the world are like in front of you. And by this time, we'd been hiking a long time, acclimating as we went, where he's like, okay, like, let's do this. We're going to go do this climb now. I was like, shit, it's cold. Yeah, that airport, that's the one.
All right. So for those that are looking, hopefully the camera transfers over to me. That's got to be pretty. Just
a cliff. So if you're at the back of a runway and you're watching the planes take off, when they leave the runway, they disappear because they actually fall.
They drop.
Yeah, runway's not long enough to get enough speed to actually just take off. They fall first.
You got to free fall a little bit before you. Okay. So okay. All right. Okay. I'm looking at this now. That's pretty intense. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's actually called the deadliest airport in the world. I think like more plane crashes have happened there than anywhere in the world or something. So
well, if the strategy of getting the planes off the ground is having them fall for a little bit, and hopefully I can understand why it probably gets that title.
Well, I think it's actually the landing, because behind where that photo was taken is a mountain. So if you're coming in hot, you're not going to just pick back up and keep flying. There's a mountain in front of you.
I saw a lot of mountains, a lot of shops too, like on the side of the mountain.
Oh yeah, you are stopping one way or the other. You're either landing or you are crashing.
So it's either you drop or you crash. Okay. Yep. So for people that don't have phobias of flying, this is the one place to go and resolve those phobias.
Yeah, but man, it was awesome. I mean, Nepal in itself is just beautiful. The hike itself was beautiful. Seeing Everest was great. And it's cold. I mean, there's no heating, no nothing the whole way through. You're sleeping in sleeping bags. I mean, there's little like villages that have rooms that you can sleep in, but it's cold. I mean, everything's frozen. They have toilets for the peak season for like Westerners that want to come, but all the water in the bowls are frozen. So you're going outside. I mean, you're literally actually collecting yak shit to bring into the house and burn. It's like the only thing around that's flammable. And that's how we're keeping warm. We're just burning that, trying to keep warm at night. But anyways, the time of the climb came, and we started at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, something like that, just because how long it was going to take us. We didn't want to be descending. It was a little easier to ascend in the dark than it was to descend in the dark.
Okay.
So we start climbing this thing, and it is cold, man. It's like minus 20 degrees or something, pretty windy actually. And we get up onto the glacier pretty high. I finally hit 20,000 feet. That was kind of my goal. I wanted to get 20,000 feet high. And I get there and the sun's starting to come up and we're looking at the top of the mountain and I can see it. I'm like 300 feet away from the top to summiting this thing. And there's just wind blowing over the backside of the mountain towards us. So it's not really hitting me, but you can see it just whipping across this ridge that we have to get up onto to go to summit. And I remember my guide just looking at me and he's looking at that. And hadn't said a word to me this whole time other than like, food, eat, sleep, whatever. And he just looks at me and he's like, "You want die?" I'm like, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, "No, I don't want die. Like, let's go. Let's get the hell out of here. Like, I'm done with this." And I had gotten like a little frostbite on my nose which I didn't know at the time. I only found when I got down, it was all blistered and
really
pretty rough. Yeah. And even now when it gets cold, I still get a little like tingly feeling on the tip of my nose where it happened. It wasn't bad. I mean, it was just like dead skin right here on the tip of my nose, and I had a full face shield on and everything. Like, it was
cool. So going over there, I mean, I guess for people that, that are into mountaineering or trekking, I mean, seeing actual Mount Everest, I mean, that's probably the most famous mountain out there, the highest, deadliest mountain out there. I mean, what was that like for you? Was it just kind of like what was that?
Oddly enough, when I was in South America, I had met a girl that said she had done it, and I'd never even thought about going to see it. And the second she said that, I was like, yeah, well, why not? Like, why can't I just go to base camp and see Mount Everest? It's so simple. Like, why would I not go do that? And so I that stuck with me. And then years later, it's like, all right, yeah, I'm going to go see it because I got the time. And man, it for anyone that gets the opportunity, the hike, like I said, is incredible.
Did you do that by yourself?
Yeah, I was just there by myself, but along the way with my guide, obviously, but along the way, you stop in all these little villages and stuff and just really great people, happy to see you. And man, it was a really good experience.
Dude, Colten, first off, I think we're coming up on time right now. And I honestly, I could probably sit here for another hour and a half, 3 hours, trade stories and all that stuff. But I love how you just kind of like look at things and why not? Why not? I mean, you got one life. I'm gonna go figure it out. I'm gonna go live. I'm gonna see this. I mean, why not? So this COVID quarantine stuff has kind of put a damper on your traveling plans.
Yeah, I know we're running out of time. Long story short, so my wife is actually Brazilian, and we had a lot of plans last year to go see Brazil. Her family, and I've been to Brazil plenty of times, but you're right. I mean, I had $5,000 worth of plane tickets that I have all credited now because last year and this year just had to cancel everything. So it's been a bummer, but like I said, still stay in touch with pretty much everyone I've met along the way, and I'll get back out there at some point.
Well, besides Brazil, what are the top 3 places that you'd like to go that you haven't been to yet?
Everyone to go that I haven't been to yet?
And why? Yes.
Okay. I'd like to go to the Philippines just because, I've been to Thailand, done some other stuff in Southeast Asia, and, fell in love with the beaches, just the weather, the people. Like,
I've heard Southeast Asia is legit.
It is awesome. I got scuba certified out there. Like, it's beautiful diving. Like, I'd like to go do that. And then, honestly, I haven't really thought about it too much. It's something my wife and I would have to agree on where we'd want to go, because a lot of the places I enjoyed in South America, I know she'd hate. Like, Bolivia was awesome from an experience standpoint. Everything was difficult though, and I don't know if she would have enjoyed it too much. Nepal was difficult, but we'll find something to do together, her and I. We've only just now started just going. So
you kind of like getting off the beaten path when you travel. You don't like doing these tourist destinations. You kind of like finding the villages and kind of where the locals go.
Oh yeah, I mean, tours exist for a reason, right? There's some things that, like Machu Picchu, is incredible. Like, it's very touristy, but you got to see it. It's beautiful. And Salt Flats, beautiful. But there's other things that you go out and see it yourself, and it's like, man, if I didn't have Juan Sanchez here, I never would have seen this waterfall. I never would have seen this mountain, like just whatever it is, never would have seen this town. So
how's Juan Sanchez doing? Have you when's the last proof of life you've seen?
About 2 years since I talked to that guy. So I don't actually know, but it would not surprise me if Juan Sanchez was retired.
Well, Juan Sanchez, if you're out there, you've done a lot of good in people's lives out there. You've connected a lot of people and not kept people. We miss you, Juan Sanchez. We'd like to get we'd like to get an update on you if you're listening out there.
Yeah, actually, you showed a photo onto the camera. I'm gonna have to do the same before we get off here. If I can pull it up on the phone real quick.
Just keep talking so the camera stays on recording you if you show it.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, let me. I've got it in my favorites. I've got a photo of Juan Sanchez, and it's probably nothing like you were thinking. Here it is. All right.
Let's see this. Stop. Oh my God.
Yes. So the top popped open, as you can see. So you could sleep 2 up top, 2 down low, had a stove.
Hold on a second. Hold that up. I'm gonna get a screenshot of this. This is perfect. Hold on a second. Oh, got it. Perfect.
I mean, it's way cooler than you were expecting.
Well, first off, that's legit. All right.
Oh yeah, we were climbing mountains in this thing. It was legit.
That's awesome. Well, man, do you have anything else you want to bring up?
Well, I know Isaac's going to be disappointed, our mutual friend, because I didn't tell my bathroom story. But
tell your bathroom story, man. It's Friday afternoon, baby. We got nothing going on right now.
We'll end on a safety moment, since we're all in the oil and gas industry. All right.
Good for you.
So working in Abu Dhabi, it's no secret. It gets hot, very, very hot. And it was like 120 degrees. It was in August, and you do not go to the bathroom unless it is an absolute emergency, because it's just a porta potty sitting out on the sand. And this was one of those emergencies. So I go inside, and it's just a hole in the ground. Like, it's not like a traditional porta potty like you're expecting. You go inside, shut the door, there's a hole in the ground, and there's a hose. There's no toilet paper. You use the hose to kind of clean yourself off. So I go in this thing, I do my business, and it's like, all right, time to get out of here. I go and try and work the handle real quick, and the handle is not budging. And it's like, okay, I have zero patience. It's like 140 degrees in the porta potty itself.
Are you a hold the breather in the porta potty type of guy?
Hold the breather?
Yeah.
No. Oh no.
You try to just get it out real quick.
You got a hole in the ground that you're squatting over, right? So like, you're burning calories. You're in squat position. It's like doing
need oxygen.
I got to be breathing pretty hard. Actually, I'm doing the opposite. I'm coming out of there out of breath. But anyways, so I'm like, I'm zero patience. So I kick the door open real quick, and when I do that, the handle flies off, lands in the hole. So that's gone forever. There's no retrieving the handle. And then on the outside, it falls off as well. So now there's just a hole in the door, and the lock is like pegged in the porta potty. So there's no way to like grab it or get out. And during this time, like, we were about to take a survey, and I was an MWD working, and they needed me to verify the survey. So the rig is looking for me, and they're like, I can hear them over the speakers, like, hey, MWD, where are you? Like, come on. And I'm yelling for help through this hole because it's hot. And by this time, I've already got the hose on, and I'm just hosing my whole body down, like on my head and everything, just trying to stay cool. I'm not surviving, not dying in a porta potty. All right. And so, anyway, someone finally finds me, and they had to get like the rig mechanic to come and actually cut out the door just because it was so like severely locked and everything. So I come out just like soaking wet. My clothes are off. Like, I'm in my boxers and my steel toes just because I'm going to die in this. Like, I have no shame at this point. Like, this is not how I'm getting sent back home to my mom. And anyway, so it was a big deal because there was like MPT on this that they had to charge to somebody, which was my company, because I was locked to the porta potty. So my boss is messaging me. He's like, what is this? Like, our MPT that we got to pay for or whatever. And so there was no sympathy for me whatsoever being in this really hot porta potty. I'm like, man, this was like a big deal. So I had to fill out like this safety report, and it went viral through the company. People were messaging me like, do you know this guy? And I was like, that was me. I was the guy in the porta potty. And you had to put like, corrective actions and all this other stuff. And I think my like ultimate corrective action was like, I need to exercise more patience when I'm in the bathroom. But no, it's funny now, but at the time, man, it was no joke. Like, that was a hotness I'd never experienced.
You know what? At the end of the day, you're exactly right. Who's going to pay for this hour? Man, I could have died in the shitter.
Porta potty.
I could have died in the porta potty, hosing myself off in my steel toes. All right, that's not something. And
these porta potties are disgusting.
Oh, believe me, I know.
And I had already like put my hands on the sides trying to break open, and I get, it's amazing what you do when you're trying to survive. But yeah, that's the porta potty story.
So what was the lessons learned besides patience?
Honestly, I didn't really have much out of that one. What are you going to do? You're in the porta potty. I guess porta potty, that sounds dangerous.
I love how they're calling you. They're like, no, like, come find me. Somebody can find me.
Buddy system when going to the bathroom.
Yeah, where's your accountability buddy? Exactly. Well, man, Colten, I appreciate you coming on, man. Everyone, this is again Colten Bingham, and drilling engineer over to Devon. And man, I love hearing your stories. I love hearing your outlook and how you're just like, yeah, man, I'll just go by myself and just see it. Did you meet your wife in Brazil, or did you meet her stateside?
I actually met her stateside. She was traveling up here, and I was still doing the 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And she was working a ski season. And I was just, hey, I'm going to get better at skiing because I didn't grow up with the snow. So it's like, I'm just going to commit, get better. And I just was going out to Utah every 2 weeks, and she was out there working, and the rest is history.
That's how it happened. I love that, man. I love that. Well, again, if I ever make it up to Oklahoma, where are you, Oklahoma City?
Oklahoma City.
If I make it up there, man, I'll definitely swing by and have a bourbon with you or something like that, and chat a little bit more. I really enjoyed this, man. I love hearing your stories. I think Isaac's right. You got some great stories, some great travel stories, and we could probably spend a lot more time on it. But until then, I guess you have to wait for round 2, everyone out there listening, because I'd love to have you back on again if you don't mind.
Hopefully I have some more stories by then. We'll see if this pandemic passes over.
Oh, I know. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Everyone, again, thank you for tuning in to Round the Rotary. And thank you, man. I appreciate you taking the time and just sitting here on a Friday afternoon and talking to me and kind of giving a nice breather away from industry news and activity, and give us some good times. So
yeah, for sure.
I appreciate it, man. And looking forward to talking to you next.
All right. Take care.
All right.